At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
It's really cool.
Bonjour and welcome to the Rosbeef's Rugby podcast, which is normally going to talk you through all things French rugby, top 14, Pro de National, and all the fun stuff in between. So the towns, the cities, the bars, the food of France. However, in this podcast, we are focusing purely on the Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup. If you're wanting all things French rugby and French rugby only, listen to the other podcast released this week on our feed. But I'm here with Reese, not with Richard. If you're only listening to this, listen to the other one and you'll find out why Richard isn't here. We will get some thoughts from Richard, but here we go. Let's dive into the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup fixtures this weekend. An exciting weekend of European action, which is coming up, and that's what we're all really here for. We filled a lot of time with some of the brilliant stuff in French rugby, but this is where France meets England, France meets Europe, France meets South Africa now as well. And to kick off our little preview of the Champions Cup games, we have another message from our Costa Rican correspondent, Richard Croney.
I'm like a little bit, not disappointed, but
Is that boy only going?
ashamed to be missing the round of 16 in the Champions Cup. Couple of less than inspiring fixtures, I think. La Rochelle Stormers could be fascinating after the result there last time out. La Rochelle seem to have started to increasingly pull out those bigger performances despite what happened earlier in the season. Toulouse Racing, I think that's going to be really, really one-sided, actually. My boys Exeter against Bath. Look, head says I think actually Bath probably have the higher ceiling and are on the way up out of the Gallagher Premiership teams. Heart says a Henry and Slade, Manny Flair-Wilboso, and of course the real Sergio Parise. Ross Vincent inspired wins at Exeter by 5.
An interesting view there from Richard that he thinks Ross Vincent is the next Sergio Parise, or the real Sergio Parise.
The real one.
I mean, it's a fascinating weekend of fixtures, although, you know, it's been well documented that this Champions Cup round we've seen quite a few of these before. We're obviously going to focus a little bit on the French angle. That is our kind of unique angle, hopefully giving you a little bit more insight into the French clubs than a lot of the other English-speaking media and Press and podcasts, who do a great job, obviously, on the UK-based stuff. Friday night, Harlequins Glasgow. So this is actually a pretty interesting game. Quins obviously got a great home record. Glasgow are second in the URC. Harlequins finished fifth, or qualified as fifth ranked team. So these teams are relatively evenly matched. I think Quins' home advantage wins on this, but the winner of this would go away to one of the games around Bordeaux Saracens. Any quick views on Harlequins Glasgow, Reese?
Yeah, I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to go Glasgow. I think if it was, obviously they've got, Franco Smith is doing a great job at Glasgow. They're moving on the last couple of years every year. They've got that spine of, I hate to say what is a good Scottish team if they could grow some bottle. If it was Glasgow home, they've only lost once at home this season, and that was, I think, Saints in the group stage. They've won all 7 games at home in the UC, which not even Leinster have managed, which I know they're not at home, but says to what a decent side they're becoming. They've got, you can go through them, they've got Ferguson, Turner, Brown, love Hugh Jones, Tubalatu, Rowe. They are a really good outfit. As I said, Franco Smith is doing a really good job. I think they're going to edge Quins. Quins have lost 2 of their last 5 games at home. And I think Glasgow...
Leicester.
Well, I thought that might come up. I think you're wearing the jersey as we speak. And I think Glasgow got some really good momentum from the last month. And I fancy Glasgow.
Okay, interesting. I think home advantage for Quins will probably do it. They had a bit of a weird game last week, but they obviously got humped by Saracens a couple of weeks ago, so it's quite hard to gauge where they're at. But Friday night, home advantage, that the sort of thing that Quins should get up for. Bulls v Lyon is the 12:30 game on Saturday. We haven't seen that. We're recording this on Wednesday evening. We haven't seen the teams yet. I will be astonished, absolutely astonished, if Lyon send a full strength team out to South Africa for that game. Given they are 12th in the top 14.
Yeah, so they're going to go to the Loftus versus in Pretoria. What I would say, the Bulls, I mean, they've got World Cup winning coach in Jake White. They've got some quality players from Springbok World Cup winning fame, Willie LaRue, Kanamudi, and Staden. They've got Elrich Lowe back. The only thing about the Bulls, I would say, is they coming off the back of a really tough night at Leinster on the weekend. They sent the Shags. They did send the Shags that. But no, you're probably right. But 35 unanswered points is pretty hammering. But they went into half time pretty much level. But I think if I was Lyon, I wouldn't be bothering with this too much. As you say, they're sitting in 12th. It's so tight in the top 14. The Bulls do not often lose at home. They're a quality outfit. They've got a quality outfit. They've got a quality coach. They've got really experienced Springboks in key positions. That back three. I say they've got a low back and pack. It's difficult to see Lyon doing this.
What, like Arensa, Kane and Moody, Willie LaRue?
Yeah. So it's, and they're not, and I mean, I know Lyon got that great pack, but the Bulls are no jokers up front either. So it's not like they're going to be bullied. So it's a really tough trip for Lyon.
This is actually one of the repeat fixtures, albeit in the group stage. It was in Lyon, and Lyon won it 29-28. But they're just not going to put that team out. So that is the game that Rich kind of talked about, some being slightly less inspiring fixtures. That is the least inspiring fixture for me. But just because I know that Lyon, they don't send full strength teams to the top 14, they're not going to be focused on the Champions Cup. It's such a financial burden for them to be potentially relegated that they're just not going to. They're not going to put out a team. However, there is another French team travelling to South Africa in another repeat, which is Stormers versus La Rochelle. Richard said it was the pick of his games. I am very intrigued by this game. I watched the group game, which Stormers won in the last minute.
Very South African.
And it was very what's the geezer? I've forgotten the guy's name. The guy that played Manny Lebock. Touchline penalty or conversion, last kick. Oh, this guy, he's just come out of the World Cup and he wasn't trusted with his goal kicking. Isn't this great? And I watched this game thinking, I'm quite looking forward to seeing Stormers. Finalists in the URC last year, winners the previous year. Thinking these guys have got to be good. They were absolutely dreadful, like just chucking the ball on the floor, like no cohesion. Somehow I don't know how they got a win. One of the worst performances I've seen for a team to win, certainly in Europe. La Rochelle were class, and they were starting to find some form then. I think now they are back nearer to some of their best form. They will send, unlike Lyon, they will send a strong team because they are two-time reigning champions. They're not going fantastically in the top 14. They're going to pin a lot on this. We saw that in the last couple of group stage games because they were staring down the barrel after 2 defeats in their first 2 games. I think La Rochelle are going to go full noise for this, and they have been a bit patchy this year. Be interesting to see kind of some of the selections. Will Hastoy start at 10 or will it be Royce? Will they kind of back the form younger player? But Aldrit's going to play, which is obviously key to them. I don't know if Skelton's back fit. That's the other key one. Antonio will play. Caballo will play. So, actually, no, Caballo's injured. So, 9 is a bit of an issue for them. But I think I'd like to see that. La Rochelle in the quarterfinals excites me significantly more than the Stormers.
Yeah, I think 2 former Stormers boys in La Rochelle colours as well, in Raymond Rule and Dylan Leeds, who were both former Stormers boys. I think Leeds was there for quite a long time. The Stormers, I mean, they've had a great couple of seasons after almost not far from going under. John Dobson, head coach, has been with them for a while. He's been Western Province as well, and has created, I think, quite a culture there. I think they sort of pride themselves as a collective and as a culture. I think the word he described is to use expression of self for the benefit of the collective. But what I would say about that, and also interestingly, just a random stat for you, only one non-South African player in the squad, in the whole squad, and that's former London Irish winger Ben Lauder.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What I would say about the Stormers is I sort of agree with your point in that meeting they had with La Rochelle, which I think was an Andre Venter try towards the end of the book conversion. They weren't great that game. They can be a lot better than that. It's an absolute fortress, the DHL. They so rarely lose there. But didn't have quite a full strength side up. But Ulster, who have got their own problems, they were abominable in the first half. I think I caught a bit of what John Dobson, I watched some of it, and John Dobson was like, I genuinely don't know what's happened in the first half. They were dreadful. And I think La Rochelle are really, as you said, really hitting their stride. It'd be interesting to see the starting lineup. But it's going to be a fascinating game. It's really difficult to call. If I had to call it, I'm going to say La Rochelle, because this is the most right in it for them. They're sitting, I think, in 5th in the Pro 14, top 14, sorry. And this is their thing for the season, but it's going to be a really stern test because the Stormers are going to turn up. They've got a great unit, and they so rarely lose at the DHL.
Well, I mean, the next game, which is on at the same time, is another tough one to call. Richard's slightly biased Exeter view against Bath. He did say that he felt Bath had the higher ceiling at this moment in time, and Head would suggest that Bath hit the kind of team that might hit that ceiling in this round. I think Bath, they were obviously dreadful in that first half against Harlequins, and also a little bit of the second half, but fantastic to pick up and nearly win and turn around that 37-point deficit. They were brilliant the week before at the back end of the game as well. I thought Exeter were dreadful at Sale at the weekend. Awful. They got a little bit done by the ref on the yellow card for Josh Hodge. But Sandy Park factor, Bath don't always travel well to Sandy Park, but I think Bath think Richard sums it up well, that their ceiling is so high. I think they are on a bit of a streak. Exeter haven't been fantastic since the break. Younger side. It's on a knife edge. I think it will probably be Bath, but I could easily see Exeter winning and then, Rob Baxter doing some magic on that young squad. The next game is one of the other big clashes and another one of the repeats from the group stage. Bordeaux, UBB at home to Saracens. So obviously back in January, this was a bit of a beatdown, 55-15. I think we can safely say, well, maybe we can't safely say, but I'd be amazed if we see a 40-point margin of victory in this game.
It would be one of the most surprising things that's happened this year, I would. Yeah. It's fair to say.
We touched on it earlier. We don't know what's happening with the fly half situation at Bordeaux. I couldn't see anything as to whether Jalibert will be fit. If Jalibert is fit, I think that puts them kind of quite comfortable favours, actually. So just that back line is so electric. Saracens, not great against Northampton last week, but bit of resilience towards the end to get that bonus point. They are also, the key thing from the previous game was the pack, and Saracens were definitely going through a phase at the turn of the year of just not having any props at all. And when you come up against Jefferson Poirot and Big Ben Tamu-Funa, that's going to cause a few issues. They've got Riccioni back fit. Maka Vunipola is no longer banned. However, I know who my money is on in a scrum between Ben Tamu-Funa and Maka Vunipola. And probably a foot race. I reckon Big Ben's probably got Mako in a foot race as well. It's a fascinating game. I'm going to back the man, Maxime the man, Luku.
Your love.
If Garcia plays 10, I think that's got classic kind of who's this young French fly half that we've never heard of for English fans, and just going to pull an absolute stunner out the bag. Even if it's Zach Holmes, you've got a guy with a wealth of experience there, former top 14 winner with Toulouse. I think they should be able to cobble together a side that is capable of beating Saracens. Saracens are a little bit up and down. You can't rule them out because of the wealth of experience, because of the names, because of like that intangible spirit that they seem to have, that kind of cringy brotherhoodness.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think home advantage, Stade Chaban-Domas could be a big factor in that as well.
Yeah, I totally.
And I guess that's kind of the first home French-based home fixture. We have been to Bordeaux together a long time ago.
We have. I've been a couple of times.
But we touched on a few recommendations a few weeks ago. But my main one for any fans of Sarries going to watch Bordeaux this weekend would be Comptoir d'Etienne for an epic steak. You go to Mama Shelter, get some nice wine for some kind of yummy mummy vibes up on a rooftop in Bordeaux. And Club Esperanza, Richard Croney's signed up membership place for some late night revelations. Also could point out this weekend, anyone that is flying into Bordeaux on Friday and looking for something to do on Friday night, you could get provided you're there early enough, you get the TGV to Angoulême, and you could watch that tasty game between Soya Angoulême and top of the league Vannes in Pro D2. Stade Chanzy is a hell of an environment, and you won't regret it if you make that trip up to Angoulême on Friday evening, tying that in, as we did last year with a European game in Bordeaux. Anything you want to add on Bordeaux, Reece?
No, I think you've covered it very eruditely, Rob. I think it's always worth remembering with Bordeaux with that absolute mouth-watering back line. And they've been really good defensively recently as well. Even in that Lyon game, Lyon got great pack the week before. I don't think it's going to be as close. I'm pretty convinced of Bordeaux in this one.
Their defence was excellent against Toulouse in that win.
Yeah. It really was, and I just can't see it. I mean, there's that Sarries fact, and they've got some big names, but I really just think Bordeaux are going to have a bit too much at home.
Saturday evening game is Leinster at home to Leicester.
Say no more. I don't think you even have to talk about this much too much.
I'm bravely wearing my Leicester Tigers shirt. We've been dreadful since the breakup of the Premiership for the Six Nations. We obviously lost the Premiership Cup final to Gloucester, lost to Gloucester again the following week at Welford Road, and just scraped past Newcastle last week. Not the sort of form you want to be going into Leinster away with to play the Ireland team. Effectively, yeah. That, and the winner of that game, which we are going to assume is Leinster, will play the winner of the Stormers v La Rochelle game. So that, the following weekend, is a particularly tasty game. Sunday, lunchtime kickoff.
Northampton Munster.
Another repeat, albeit venue change. I'm going to go Northampton with this. They won at Tormund Park. And they've been great at home. They've been good all season. They had that blip away at Bristol, but I think they kind of reset that with a very dominant display at Munster. Kind of two staging post performances from Finn Smith in that Munster away game and last week are kind of signs of things to come, and I'm backing him to kind of carry that form into the Munster game. And then finally, the final game of the weekend, which from our perspective is a very exciting one, although, as Richard said, it could well be quite one-sided. Toulouse v Racing. There was before... So I watched the Racing game after I'd watched the Toulouse game against Pau. Going into that, I thought, Racing obviously started that game pretty well, scoring a try in the first 30 seconds. Well, this could be quite a close game. But then Le Garrec goes off injured. Gibert goes off injured. And so you're about to take on a team that has more fly halves than it knows what to do with. And the best scrum half in the world, not even playing scrum half because they've got that many options against a team with no halfbacks. And you're going to a venue that they've won every single game at in the league this season and not got an attacking bonus point on only 4 of those 10 occasions. It should be pretty one-sided, all things considered. Racing didn't have great form in the early stages of the Champions Cup either. Any thoughts on Toulouse v Racing, Reece?
Not much beyond what... I mean, I think it's really difficult to see Racing winning this. I mean, that Toulouse backline, I mean, there are so many different connotations of it that, as you say, how many can you shake a stick at?
We're not sure if Ramos is going to be... He hasn't trained yet this week. He might train later this week. Kinghorn is back in training. Obviously, Ntamack will be better for his run out. And are they going to start with... I think they'll start with Grau at 9 and start with Dupont at 10 again, and then bring Ntamack off the bench.
Yeah.
I think it's... might get.
I think that seems sensible. I mean, Toulouse is at home. It's very difficult to see past them, I think.
So I guess we've kind of talked quite a bit about Toulouse's players over the last course of this podcast. A few more Rosbeefs type angles. You could tie this in as a very easy trip if you are going out to see that game. Colomiers are at home to Agen, so a bit of a local derby on the Friday night. Colomiers is a suburb of Toulouse, very accessible from the centre of Toulouse. That would be a nice little Pro Day de Champions Cup doubleheader. But Reece, we were obviously together at the Stade Ernest Vallon earlier, a month ago today, I think, maybe a month ago yesterday.
Oh, wow.
What would be your recommendations for having a good day out at Stade Ernest Vallon or a good day out in Toulouse for anyone going to that game?
So I think Toulouse is a must experience, I think, for whenever you go to it. And Toulouse is a great French city. I think the market is always a great place to go. There's a lovely market.
Victor Hugo.
That is it. Obviously, a favourite of yours, Marché Victor Hugo. there's a great little bar at the start, at one of the entrances to the market, which you can get little beers, a couple of bottles of wine, and there is some absolutely tremendous food stalls in there, with duck stripping and confit. You can grab
smothered in duck
smothered.
fat.
I mean, it is unbelievable. I mean, that you've never seen so much duck fat in your life. It's like a swimming pool of duck fat, which sounds much nicer than I thought it would. But you can get a couple of bottles of really great wine. You can get great meats, cheeses, have a little drink with the friends.
Bread.
Bread. Like, the produce is mouth-watering. And if you fancy something a little bit more down to earth, you could go down the road to Le Pub, which is very cleverly named.
Pub O'Clock.
Pub O'Clock. Sorry, I think Le Pub.
Which is actually a very good bar, but it's just around the corner from Marché Victor Hugo. But I would say you don't want to ruin your appetite at the Marché Victor Hugo.
No, you don't.
What was the little number you picked up just before kickoff at Stade Ernest-Vallon?
Yeah, so the Ernest-Vallon, we had this sort of Canadian-style poutine, which you think when you go to a rugby match that it's going to be like your general, like, rubbish fries, chuck some meat on it. But it's genuinely like hand-cut fries with the richest red wine sauce. I mean, the proportions of... It was
a beef ragout, but I would love to... I reckon the majority of the sauce was red wine. It's
80% red wine, 20% beef.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. And there's a little bit of like cheese curds and things on top, and it was just splendid, which is not unusual in French rugby. We had a great...
We had something similar the night before, didn't we?
In Montauban, some great pork cooked over fire. And you get there, we cut it pretty fine, but get there a little bit early, soak up some of the atmosphere, and afterwards do not think that you're in the UK and it's time to ship out back into Toulouse. The pubs, that is for later. There's loads of great restaurants to Toulouse, there's loads of great bars, but get round to the sort of back of the stadium,
the bodega, I think
the bodega, and you've got outside there, you can have people, you can have brass bands, the snare where people are going over the top, you can have both sets of fans. Well, you probably want...
You've got that crowd surfing.
That's what I was looking for. I don't know why I said the snake, as if we're sort of doing some sort of like 15-year-old disco or WWF back in the day. And if you go into the bodega, the rugby's going to be on. There's going to be people in there, and the players in there. And the one thing you'll notice about French rugby when you're out there is the players do mix. They do come out, and they will be in the bar afterwards. Not necessarily all, but you always hear them there. And if you're going to make the most of it, and you will not regret, because I was wandering around just as Mr. Club Shop I'm on the line with now, so I spent 45 minutes spending all of his life savings on the latest bit of kit he's seen. And I soaked in, and I was quite cheerily for 45 minutes of my own with my pints, just taking videos, looking at the crowd surfing, getting involved. Get back into Toulouse. There's so many great bistros. We went to one that was really good.
Which we've shouted out before. The best Dauphin was you could taste, I reckon.
Yeah, I give him a lot of stick because there was a bit of a wait, but it was really good. But this place is littered with great bistros, and that row where it's on is what we saw a lot of nice places. Yeah. And you can really make the most of it. And even then, I caught a taxi home the next morning. For those of you who like a late night, I caught a taxi back to the airport at about 6-7 a.m. and I was coming out, and there were people still going. Because unlike London or the rest of the UK, where it's a pretty big struggle to get anything past 12-1, there'll be a lot of bars open if you fancy continuing the revelry. But take advantage of the great food, the great culture, and really do get there a little bit early for the rugby, and do stay afterwards, because you will not regret it.
Yeah, I think the key tip for match day at Stade Ernest-Vallon is be prepared to spend most of your day at the stadium. Before and pre-match, match, post-match will all be a brilliant experience. Moving on to the Challenge Cup, which it's not. I'll be honest, it's not an area of great focus. The only kind of interest for me is the fact there are some French team in this time round. If we do a quick quiz, Reese, we'll do a quick fire game of will the French team bother to turn up for this game? Friday evening, Gloucester are hosting Cast.
Absolutely not, because they didn't bother turning up in January the last time they played. So I can't imagine them bothering.
And Gloucester are really going for this. They're out. Yeah. They're about the only team in the Premiership that's any good that is out of the playoffs. So they're putting all their eggs in that. Claremont at home to Cheetahs at 12:30 on Saturday.
Yes, Cheetahs is really difficult to tell. I mean, amateur rugby these guys play in. I mean, so Claremont, I think Claremont have been so poor though, but I think they're going to turn up. I'm going to back them this weekend. I think they're going to show up and they're going to win that game. I think
Claremont might. I think they need the confidence boost to win at home. It's home. Stade Marcel Michelin is a proud place for them. Benetton Lions, who cares? We've got the team called, I think, the Bridgend Swansea Ospreys at Sale. Hosting Sale. What's going to happen in your beloved Swansea boys?
Bridgend Swansea, as if I'm rising to that. It's an Ospreys win, mate. Yeah.
The Ospreys for context, Reese is from Neath, and therefore the Neath Swansea Ospreys is a bit of a dagger through the heart. Look, the Ospreys are the only Welsh region performing in any way, getting better over the last couple of years. You know, the club is doing well as far as Welsh regions go. Do you know what? I'm going to back them against Sale. Obviously. Anyway, they're not French. You've had your moment in your Welsh son there.
At the same time,
at the same time, bearing in mind how we started our review of the top 14. Edinburgh are hosting Bayonne. Do we think Bayonne are going to turn up to that game?
Do you know what? I doubt they even put people on the flight. It could be anyone coming off that flight.
If the average age is above 25 in that Bayonne team, I'll be amazed.
The kindergarten coming.
Yeah. Montpellier hosting Ulster. Are Montpellier going to turn up for that?
I think so, because...
Won this competition in 2021, game that I was at Twickenham.
Ulster are really going through a lot of club problems, as people would have seen. They're not sort of the side they were a few seasons ago. I think if I was Montpellier, after having last week where they've had a couple of rough weeks, this is the sort of thing I think where they suddenly turn up for. And I think it's a really good opportunity to, when they're in 13th as well, when they're sort of backs against the wall a little bit, should be performing better than they are. This is one where they can really put out a signal, get that back end of the season moving a little bit. I think they're going to turn up, and I think they should take the opportunity to really try and put it to Ulster.
I think they should, for the confident bit of cohesion is going to help. They chop and change so much. My hunch is that they will put out a 1.5 team, or maybe even a second team, and still win. I kind of have that feeling about this. So we kind of think Montpellier might turn up for that. So actually, the two teams that we've said will turn up, the two lowest placed teams in the top 14 so far, Sharks, Zebra, who cares? Poe, Connaught. Are Poe going to turn up at home against Connaught?
Yes, 100%.
I think they will. Home game. They could win this tournament, Poe. I don't think they'll target it. They've not got a great pedigree in Europe, but home fixture. I think the fact it's at home helps. And they had an away game last week. I tend to think their starting 15 is good, and they're not quite got that depth. They might use it as a bit of an experiment to kind of play with some combinations. They still feel like they haven't sorted out some of their best combinations, but I think they could win that.
Yeah, there's a good opportunity to do it this weekend.
They'll probably put a decent team out, I think.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to do it this weekend as well, particularly heading into this crunch sort of period. I know they're sitting, 7th or 8th with 7th with this, but they still could be dragged back into it. They've got a little gap, but they still could be dragged back into it. It's a nice opportunity to try and work out some of those best combinations when you come into the sort of last 5 or 6 games of the season. Connaught really, they've had a really average season. I would back them here, and I think they'll turn up. It's as we said, it's a good opportunity for them to. And also, if you look at this, I know they've not got great pedigree in Europe, but if you're looking through the rest of these sides who are making up this sort of last 16, there is absolutely no reason why Poe couldn't go all the way.
I think the winner of this tournament is probably going to be Gloucester.
Yeah,
they're up for it, and they're finding a bit of form, and I think, or if the Sharks pumped Poe in the group game in
the Sharks have been awful in the URC.
Awful, so yeah, they've got a lot of names, but
they do. But I do agree with you. Gloucester's probably the side that sticks out. But if Poe wanted to do it, and obviously, Edinburgh's another one. But I think if Poe or the Ospreys maybe even. But I think if Poe really do want to go for it, then there's no reason why they can't. I think they're a match for most teams.
I don't think they've got the appetite.
They've
got their best season in the top 14 for a while. I think they'd quite like to get in the barrage, I think. So that was a highly in-depth review of which French teams are going to turn up. And we have said Castres and Bayonne, absolutely no chance of them turning up. Clermont, Montpellier and Pau might turn up, but with no guarantees on any of those. Well done for making it to the end of this. You can find us on Instagram at Rosbeast Rugby. You can email us, rosbeastrugby@gmail.com. We're at Rosbeast Rugby on TikTok. We're at Rosbeast Rugby on X. And we are at Rosbeast Rugby on YouTube. Basically, at Rosbeast Rugby. Thank you very much for your time, Reese. You may make it back next week. But for now, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.